Welcome, curious minds. In a world just brimming with information, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, right? Trying to sift through everything. This is the deep dive, and our mission is to cut through all that noise, helping you become truly well-informed without the overload. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really powerful framework for understanding growth and transformation. It's drawn from some theological sources that talk about a micro-decision matrix. Think of it as a, well, radically simple way to turn those seemingly small moments into fertile ground for some pretty profound development.
Yeah, what's truly striking here is how it sort of fundamentally challenges our usual way of thinking about growth, moving beyond those one-size-fits-all models we often see.
Right.
It's really about discerning where a soul truly stands emotionally, intellectually, volitionally, and socially,
Yeah.
and then responding with real precision.
Precision.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it just offers incredible clarity on how to genuinely move forward, whether you're thinking about your own personal development or leadership, or maybe even building community.
Okay, so let's unpack this framework a bit. The core idea, as I understand it, is that transformation isn't some single dramatic leap, but it's more dynamic, like an unfolding journey, kind of like tending a garden.
Exactly like a garden.
You mentioned it challenges misconceptions. What's maybe the most common trap people fall into with growth that this matrix helps us sidestep right away?
Oh, that's a great question. And it really highlights a critical insight from the sources. What if the reason your efforts aren't working isn't because people are closed off, but maybe because you're answering questions they're not even asking yet?
Hmm, that's powerful.
That's really the core of it. This framework helps you see people differently, not as like projects or problems you need to fix, but as pilgrims who are already in a process.
Pilgrims in process. I like
Yeah,
that.
and encourages you to meet them exactly where they actually are.
And central to this whole thing is a metaphor the sources use quite a bit, the seed and the soil,
That's right.
which highlights that transformation unfolds organically, like nature. You've got seeds, maybe truth, words, intentions, and then the soil, which is the human heart, in all its variability. And this isn't just poetry, is it? It's presented as a real paradigm for how growth happens, one tiny micro decision at a time.
Absolutely. It's a working model.
So at its heart, this micro-decision matrix is a four-phase framework: cultivating, planting, harvesting, and multiplying. It reframes growth not as a single event, but as this dynamic, relational journey.
That's it.
Let's start with the first phase then. Cultivating. This sounds like the prep work.
Yeah.
The unseen stuff, breaking up the soil, softening the heart.
Exactly. Think of that parable of the sower in Matthew 13. The same seed gets sown, but the results are totally different because the soil condition varies so much.
Right. The path, the rocky ground, the thorns.
Precisely. And it's remarkable how Hosea 10.1 echoes this biblically.
Yeah.
Break up your unplowed ground, for it is time to seek the Lord. So cultivation isn't about the seed yet. It's all about creating readiness to receive.
Readiness.
And this phase primarily deals with those emotional barriers, things like wounds from past religious experiences, maybe loss, grief, shame, disillusionment, or even that kind of defensive self-sufficiency we see sometimes.
And these aren't things to just fix in someone.
No, not at all. The sources emphasize these are deep-seated wounds to be acknowledged, approached with real care and empathy.
So practically speaking, day to day, how does this look if it's not about what you say?
Well, it's often about what you remove. It's counterintuitive. Think of clearing debris from a field. Active listening, for example, isn't just a soft skill here. It's like removing the stones of offense or the thorns of distraction that block genuine connection.
Okay, so clearing the way.
Yes. In a professional setting, maybe it looks like intentional team building, really practicing deep listening, fostering emotional intelligence. In any context, really, it's about consistent, trustworthy presence. It's being with people in their unplowed places, without judgment.
Not saying there.
Yeah, earning that trust. And the signs of progress here are subtle, but they're significant. You might see a resistant heart slowly become curious, or maybe a crisis softens someone's pride, an increase in, say, spiritual hunger, or just a growing openness to comfort. And this corresponds to what some theological models like the Engel scale describe. It's that journey from being unaware to having an initial awareness of maybe deeper spiritual truths. It's all about cultivating trust through empathy. Persuasion comes later, if at all.
Okay, so that foundation of trust is built, the soil is cultivated. Then we move to planting.
That's right. Phase 2.
This is where specific truths or intentions start to take root. Sowing words of life, applying principles to real situations, maybe acts of kindness or even correction or challenge.
Exactly. And Ecclesiastes 11.6 has this great advice. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle. It's an act of faith, really, and vulnerability, actually, for both the sower and the receiver.
Vulnerability on both sides. Interesting.
Yeah, the barrier here tends to be more intellectual or formative. The heart isn't hard anymore, like in cultivating, but it's not quite stable yet. Doubts can stir up, questions start bubbling. There's curiosity, but it needs depth.
So this lines up with maybe the thorny soil or the shallow ground from Jesus' parable.
Spot on. The seed is there, but it can get choked out by distractions or, just doesn't develop deep enough roots.
Now, here's something really illuminating the sources point out. Jesus himself planted with, you describe it as, surgical precision.
Yes.
With Nicodemus, he used questions. With the woman at the well, dignity and truth, but in layers. With the rich young ruler, a very direct challenge. How do these different approaches show that precision? What can we learn from that for our own interactions?
Yeah, that's absolutely key. He didn't have a one-size-fits-all script. His approach shows us that knowing what to plant, when to plant it, and how, well, it matters immensely. Timing and tone are just as crucial as the actual content.
So it's not just what you say, but how and when.
Exactly. Practical strategies here might involve something called relational apologetics, which at its core just means conversing to genuinely understand where someone's coming from, rather than just arguing to win a point.
Understanding, not winning.
Right. It's about sharing foundational principles as a living, unfolding story, not just like handing someone a list of doctrines, presenting the core message as good news, not just correct information. And this maps back to that progression we talked about. Individuals start showing positive attitudes, they begin to see a personal need, and they're actively processing the implications for their own lives.
Okay, processing the implications. That leads us logically to the next phase, harvesting.
Phase 3.
Galatians 6.9 comes to mind. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest. So the harvest isn't the final destination.
No, not the end. It's more like the visible reveal of what was truly planted and took root. This phase is all about recognizing readiness. Readiness for a decisive decision, for a deeper commitment.
Readiness again, but a different kind.
A different kind. The primary barrier here is usually volitional. It's about the will. It's often not that they don't understand the information anymore. It's that they need to surrender their will to make a choice.
The will barrier.
Exactly. This aligns with the good soil in Jesus' parable. The heart is receptive. It's ready to produce actual fruit. But common challenges pop up here. Fear of change, maybe attachment to old habits or sins, fear of losing identity or relationships, or sometimes just control issues.
That makes sense. Jesus didn't force anyone, did he?
Never coerced.
Yeah.
But he always issued a clear call. Think about Levi, the tax collector he was called, and he left everything right then and there to follow. That's a harvest moment.
So what does recognizing a harvest look like in our lives or when we're helping others?
Well, it calls for discernment, definitely. Patience, too. But also celebration and stewardship of that decision. In personal growth, you might see a genuine shift in someone's character. In leadership, maybe watching a team member step up willingly to new responsibilities.
Concrete changes.
Yeah. It means issuing clear invitations sometimes. Encouraging public actions that signify commitment, like, in a faith context, baptism or sharing a testimony. And it also means normalizing the struggle, reminding people that growth is a journey and grace is right there with them. This is that crucial pivot point in spiritual progression, moving from consideration to active decision, becoming a new believer, for example.
Okay, decision made, commitment taken. That leads us to the final phase, multiplying.
The fourth phase, yes.
This feels like where the legacy happens. Like Timothy 2.2 says, entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others. This isn't just addition, is it? It's exponential.
Exactly. Exponential impact through disciples. And a really fascinating insight here is that multiplication isn't some totally separate, isolated phase. It's more like the natural fruit that comes from sustained micro-decisions across all the earlier phases.
So it builds on everything before it.
Absolutely. The primary barrier here often becomes social. Things like fear of inadequacy, can I really do this? Fear of rejection, or maybe just a simple lack of equipping or training. It really challenges a person to move from the, let's say, safety of their own personal growth to the risk of investing spiritually in others.
Taking a risk.
Yeah. And Jesus modeled this perfectly, didn't he? He invested deeply in just a few who would then be empowered to reach the many.
So what does this look like for you listening, whether you're leading a team at work or maybe just nurturing relationships at home?
Well, in a business context, it might look like building scalable systems, having truly empowered teams, creating reproducible core values that aren't dependent on one person.
Makes sense.
In any context, really, it's about equipping others to grow themselves and empowering them to lead in their own right. That means providing training, actually sharing authority, building a culture where people feel sent out and supported, not just held close. And crucially, continuing to walk alongside them.
Supporting them as they lead.
Right. This marks the top end of that progression we've been tracking, where individuals move from personal growth into missional reproduction, helping others start their own journey.
Wow. So this whole deep dive into the micro-decision matrix really shows that this garden of the heart idea is perpetual.
It is. It's a cycle. You might be simultaneously cultivating trust with one person over here, planting seeds of truth in your child over there, witnessing a harvest moment in a colleague, and actively multiplying impact through someone you're mentoring.
All happening at once.
All at once. And the real wisdom, the sources suggest, lies in recognizing which phase you're primarily in with a specific person or project, and then acting accordingly, tailoring your approach.
And this is where it gets really practical because we often fall into that trap you mentioned earlier, the one-size-fits-all approach.
Which can be disastrous.
Right. Imagine like throwing seeds onto frozen ground in the middle of winter and expecting a harvest next week.
Exactly. Or pushing someone to make a huge life-altering decision when their heart is still really wounded and needs that gentle cultivation first.
Or, on the other end, maybe expecting someone who just made a commitment to immediately start leading others without giving them time to develop depth or get equipped.
Precisely. This matrix gives us such a powerful diagnostic tool to avoid those mismatches.
It really does. And it brings up a pivotal question you raised based on the sources. If Jesus met every person exactly where they were, why do we so often lead from where we are instead?
That's a challenging one. Rushing the process, the sources warn, leads to shallow roots. It leads to burnout, both for the person trying to grow and the person trying to help. And it can lead to a misaligned sense of identity, trying to be something you're not ready to be yet.
Shallow roots, burnout.
Yeah. Think of the Chinese bamboo tree. Apparently it spends something like 5 years underground, unseen, just developing this massive root system. Then it shoots up incredibly rapidly.
Wow, 5 years underground.
Yeah, genuine growth takes time. It takes that hidden, intentional work.
So for you listening, this really means prioritizing heart before habit. Is that a fair summary?
I think that's spot on. True. Lasting transformation begins with a changed heart or regenerated heart, not just modified behavior on the surface. When we focus on preparing the soil, the heart, and sowing with that kind of precision we talked about, then obedience, growth, positive change.
It flows more naturally from delight, not just duty.
Delight, not duty. I like that.
And the outcome is authentic, lasting fruit.
Okay, this is incredibly insightful. So what's a tangible way for you, the listener, to actually integrate this understanding into your life, into your relationships?
Well, the sources suggest a really practical tool, sometimes called a printable matrix tool. It's basically a simple 2x2 grid that maps these 4 phases.
Cultivating, planting, harvesting, multiplying. Right. And it helps you identify where someone might be in their journey and what they might need next. You could literally use it to jot down observations, maybe think through and plan your next interaction more strategically.
It moves from concept to practice.
Exactly. It allows for what we call precision interaction. It helps you tailor your approach instead of just, guessing or using a generic method for everyone.
Can you give an example of how that might work, like specific questions?
Sure. So if you sense someone is mainly in that cultivating phase, maybe dealing with hardness or wounds, a good question might be simply, what's been your biggest struggle lately? Just opening the door for them to share.
Okay. Listening.
Right. If they seem to be in the planting phase, asking questions, exploring ideas, you might ask, what questions do you have about faith or about these principles we're discussing? Invite the questions. If you sense they're nearing a decision point, in harvesting, you could gently ask, what's holding you back, if anything, from fully embracing this next step, acknowledging the volitional choice? And for someone ready for multiplying, you might ask, who in your life do you feel maybe God is prompting you to share your faith of this journey with?
Hmm.
encouraging that outward focus.
Wow, those are really specific and helpful prompts for each phase.
Mm.
As you reflect on this whole deep dive, what's maybe one insight that really stands out or resonates with you personally?
Hmm. That's a good question to ask ourselves, too.
Yeah. Perhaps it's thinking about what phase you are in with the key people around you at work, at home, in your community. Where are they on this map? Or maybe it's asking, what micro decisions are shaping your own soul right now? Where might you need to prepare your own soil for something new God wants to do?
That's powerful because this matrix isn't just for understanding others, it's for our own growth, too. It challenges us, I think, to become what the sources might call gardeners of grace.
Gardeners of grace.
Yeah. Wise in recognizing the season, patient in the process, and faithful in those small daily decisions that ultimately grow eternity, one heart at a time. The harvest is definitely real, but it doesn't just magically appear at some dramatic moment. It begins way back, when a friend just leans in to listen, when a genuine question starts to stir in someone's mind, or when a simple story somehow softens a hardened heart. That's where it starts.
That really brings it back to those micro decisions. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final provocative thought for you to consider. You were not just brought to understand this for yourself.
Hmm.
What if the future of real, lasting growth isn't actually in better programs or bigger events, but simply in empowered people like you who truly know how to cultivate, plant, harvest, and multiply in their everyday relationships? May you be the kind of person who not only bears fruit in your own life, but bears fruit that bears more fruit.